strategies to plant. So let me just pull out that card. I was a professional horticulturist who had 50 clients. We had to plant a lot of
You were.
bulbs very, very quickly. And I invested in an auger situation, but none of my gardeners liked it. It could be effectual for that sort of hotel style planting where we wanted one tulip every 3 to 4 inches or 5 or 6 per square foot. So somebody's on their hands and knees and somebody else has the auger, but the person on their hands and knees still needs a saw knife or trowel to just get that dirt out of the way. And then they put it in and then they put the pepper on. We were almost always dealing with critters, which we'll
Wait,
talk
wait,
about in a
wait.
little while.
Pepper? Do tell, do
Yeah.
tell, do tell.
Oh, for squirrels so they won't dig them. Pepper.
How much pepper? And how are you
Oh,
getting
I
so
would
much pepper?
30 pounds of cayenne pepper every year we bought. Yeah,
Now, okay, wait, did it work?
it did work. It did work. And
How
so you would
much
put
per
it
bulb?
so the system was there. If it were just the one bulb, then that person puts in the bulb and, they have on gloves and Lord, don't accidentally like wipe your eyes. Oh, it's just so painful. And then a sprinkle of cayenne and then you do that section and then you sprinkle cayenne over that section. So now all the dirt is smooth, all the perennials are back in place and you put more cayenne on top. And yes, it worked.
It really works. This isn't an old wives' tale. I mean, I've read that in magazines and things and thought, The other thing is that if as you're doing this and the cayenne is going everywhere and you're, oh, great, it's in my lungs.
When COVID came, those masks were quite handy.
Right. Oh, I think I'll do a little experiment this year. I'm going to put some tulips, because I know I've got tulips coming. I always do. And I'm going to put them somewhere where they will be dug and or eaten by voles
Okay.
because the hard experience has told me that. And I'm going to put like a little sprinkle. Is that like a
Uh-huh.
chef's pinch?
I'd say a little heftier than that, a little heftier than a chef's pinch.
They're going
No, so you're
underneath it.
guarding
So.
against squirrels who might be, you know, when you plant tulip
Mm.
bulbs and the onion sort of situation, the brown wrapper can come off of those. We were always also very careful not to leave those lying around because that's sort of a signal like, dig here, squirrels. This is where we planted the bulbs that you like so much. Squirrels will go after daffodil bulbs just for curiosity. They're toxic to them. Seemingly Darwinism is not taking
Coming
its
up.
toll in that situation. But let's go back to how.
I totally diverted you, but that is fascinating to me.
I would also love to point out my method that we got really good at as a crew. It's problematic and you need flexibility with one person, but with two people, it's
Hmm.
awesome. And that is just
Okay.
your biggest shovel, 8 inches across, and somebody just goes whoomp and sort of tips it up, and somebody else throws in a half a dozen bulbs and the pepper, if they're tulips, and then so you haven't actually dug a hole, you've just lifted up a portion of the earth like a hinge door. And then the shovel comes out and the hinge falls back down and the earth settles on top of your bulbs. It's very efficient.
And that's the reason that type of thing is better than like an auger, because even though an auger is extremely convenient and it digs those holes quickly, it throws the earth.
Mm.
And even if it's soft earth and it mounds up around it, it's still moving the earth away. The only place I use an auger is out in my grassland now, anywhere that's wild and I'm planting bulbs. And watching me scramble to find earth to throw back into those
Yeah,
holes
yeah,
is
you can never find
hilarious.
enough. Yeah.
No, I'm shoving the leaves, a little bit of stone, whatever's there, whatever I can pull up because the dirt is gone. It's finished. And sometimes if I'm smart, I'll grab a bucket and I'll have a bucket of compost with me. But
Yeah.
that works until I don't know, till the bucket's out and I don't want to go back to the pile. That makes a lot of sense to do the shovel thing.
Yeah.
I
And
get
it
that.
also makes for more, we'll talk about design in a few minutes, but it's rare, although it happens where you want one bulb per hole. Clients did want that hotel-y sort of look of the spread, and it can be beautiful. It really can, but it is formal. And a not more naturalistic planting is with a big shovel sort of situation, like a half a dozen here and 3 over there and, 5 over there and making it look more like what might have happened in nature if you could conjure up what nature might have planned.
I witnessed the use of a very wonderful tool that I think I might splurge on. I might ask Michael if I could have an early birthday present for this thing. It's a Sneeboer Bulb Planter, and it's made by the Dutch company, which is a beautiful company for tools, specifically to their recommendations. And I watched this thing being used both by Fergus Garrett and a couple others, where you push it in, you jump on it, and then you pull it out at an angle, and it, pops out this lovely hole, and then you push it into another hole, you do the same thing, and it pushes the old one out. And sometimes it'll throw these little plugs. It's basically throwing a plug out. So if you've got someone behind you, which I will not, but it'll be me later, I can just be throwing a bulb into that hole and then grabbing the plug and putting it down into that hole. And it looks like bulbs have never been planted. I will definitely put that into the show notes, but I'm going to put it into the show notes after I have ordered one to make sure that I can get my hands on one. So sorry if you're out of luck, but it really was a very cool tool because they're planting crocus in lawns. And I know a lot of you, me included, have squirrel issues with crocus. But then again, we can use Leslie's method of seeing if that works a little bit to keep them off of those crocus. Because once those crocus are established, it's harder for the squirrels to go after it. The squirrels are very much drawn by the fact that there's fresh earth that has
Mhm.
been dug, and evidently they're scanning for these for the little tunics of bulbs.
All right, your lovely trowel that you love, I use a Hori Hori for sure. Just keep in mind, in case there are more beginner listeners, the good news is that you can make your hole smaller depending on the type of bulb that you are planting. And so it's basically about 3 times the size of the bulb. So if you don't love to dig deep holes, don't buy many alliums and get yourself a bunch of crocus and glory of the snow and, snowdrops, because those holes can be tiny. It's really fun and quick.
But here's one thing on those techniques, and I could save a lot of risks just by sharing this little bit of information. Whether you're using Leslie's and her cult following Hori Hori, or you're using my wonderful pointing trowel, you need to stab. So what you're doing is you're stabbing into the soil, you're pulling the soil back, and you're throwing that bulb down low. And you're trying to go as deep as you can. You're planting 3 times the length of the bulb as a rule. So if it's a big old tulip bulb, you're wanting to get down there almost 6 inches. But if it's a tiny little Chinodoxa or Iphion or something, you may not be getting too far down below the surface, maybe 3 inches. But stab and pull back and then drop the bulb in and let it go. And it's the same principle as with the shovel.
The big shovel, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm reading that you use rose canes to protect your bulbs.
I do not use rose canes yet because I don't have a squirrel problem. And of course, it's going to come now. Of course, it is because I'm getting a deer fence. So the next plague of Egypt is coming. But I have seen many times, and particularly by Sarah Raven, she's a garden writer in the UK, of putting rose canes crisscrossed over the top of your newly planted container. So it's to try and stop those little tiny paws from wanting to play basically in your soil. Another way that you can try that's more attractive is putting several inches, 2 inches of grit over the top. And that can sort of make them think, oh, maybe there's nothing in here.